Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Now in our 6th season, looking into the exciting off-field happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club and some on-field happenings maybe as well. I'm Richard Woodward and this is the flagship show available every week on video and audio. So for an irreverent but always informative hour or more football conversation, make your Monday a Blue Monday. And joining me for his hat-trick ball appearance in a row is Seb Brown. And welcome back to the pod, as always, a guy who I know who could take a set piece from either side of the field and keep it within the field of play, David Diamond. Gentlemen, how the devil are you? Seb, we'll start with you. Back again 3 times in a row.
Back again 3 times in a row and 3 0-0 draws. Brilliant. I think I am possibly the curse of the Blue Monday podcast. I had the 0-0 with MK Dons, and then the 0-0 with Charlton, and now a 0-0 now. So God, next time I'm on and we actually score a goal, I won't know what to do. I won't know what to say. I'll go to pieces. I'm not on next week. He'll be pleased to hear because I can't watch the game. So 3-0 Ipswich Town victory incoming. But I'm very well, thank you.
You don't need to watch the game to be able to talk about it, Seb. It'll be a 0-0 against Swindon. Anyway, Dave, good to see you. How are you, sir?
Yeah, good. I haven't watched the game for 6 weeks, and I think this is my 4th time on. So, it's sort of fairly standard, really. No, I have to be fair. Yeah, very well, thanks, Rich. Yeah, very well. Yeah, I did manage to sort of sit through it yesterday, which we'll get to, no doubt. But no, other than that, I'm pretty good, I think.
Grant. And we're recording Sunday morning. I kind of feel like we need some orange juice and some croissant, some kind of Sunday supplement. We'll kind of keep it like a chilled out Sunday morning type vibe. And as has been common in the last few weeks, we're mostly going to talk about off-field stuff, as I mentioned in my intro. Let's start the short-lived European Super League, guys, which felt like either a really stupid idea from the start as the reaction from the supporters and the wider game in general, to make sure it was pretty quickly killed off. But slight suspicions that this is just a negotiating tactic and we haven't seen the end of it. Dave, do you want to give us your thoughts on the short-lived European Super League?
It's utter greed, but then when you sort of drill down into sort of minutiae of it all, I mean the debt that these clubs are in, some of the eye-watering debt that these clubs are in, you can see why the owners are trying to sort of dip their toe into the water. And maybe, I think like you, I don't think this is the end of it. I think this was pretty much, very much sort of testing the waters and probably got the reaction they expected, I think. But when you look at the debt some of these clubs are in, it's just phenomenal, isn't it? Absolutely phenomenal. So from that point of view, for these owners who were sort of, I think, predominantly American owners, I can see why they were looking to sort of push it through. But I think they perhaps did underestimate the supporters' reaction, that's for sure.
Seb, on the supporters' reaction, I mean, clearly a good sign that a United fan base can affect change and such significant change at that. Does it give you confidence for the future about, Kroenke at Arsenal's under pressure now, isn't he? And others the Glazers might be too. But on other issues, we're going to talk about social media shortly. Do you feel any better about the kind of United fan base, that it can be a positive driver for change?
Yeah, well, it shows obviously what can be done when people come together. You had Sky Sports pundits for sort of 24 hours going on about it non-stop and almost, empowering people and saying, don't let it, write to your local MP, march on your ground, etc. And to be fair, it all worked. It would have been nice to see potentially, similar reactions to other issues that are currently going on in football. I'm sure we'll come on to that kind of stuff a little bit later, but it just showed, football is a game for the fans, and without the fans, it's a cliche. It's been said for the last 12 months. Without the fans, it's absolutely nothing. And it really showed the power of what can be done when people sort of come together. We saw the protests at Arsenal, we saw the stuff at United and stuff, and I guess they're very, very fortunate that no one can be in the ground at the minute, because if there had been a normal round of fixtures yesterday with a full Emirates on Friday night and stuff, there would have been absolute, they'd be getting pelters left, right and centre. So it's not really a surprise they've done it when they can't be held to account within their own stadiums. Like you guys said, I'm not sure this is entirely the end of it. It seems to be a bit of a dipping your toe in the water to gauge reaction. Clearly they read the room very, very badly, and I guess we'll see what happens moving forward. But from the fan point of view, it was, that's great to see, isn't it? When fans come together, real change can be carried out.
Totally agree. Onto other more interesting things and Ipswich Town related things this week in chronological order. Wigan confirmed, unsurprisingly, the appointment of Liam Richardson on a permanent basis as their manager, who obviously succeeded Paul Cook and has been his long time number 2. So good news for him, but Paul Cook is going to have to borrow Seb's phrase about, or was it Dave's phrase about dipping toes in water? Paul Cook is going to have to find someone new to work with. early thoughts are John McGreal, who I'm back in Ippo now. I saw walking around, and I think yesterday a guy with a shaven head is pretty common everywhere. Kieran Dyer has kind of been closer and closer to the first team. Noel Hunt has been mentioned. Any thoughts on your possible favourites for the number 2 position, Dave?
I don't think so. I mean, I think John McGreal, I think he was obviously always very well loved at the club. Great player, always really rated him as a player, and probably got harshly treated at Cole U. And it was almost a case of with Cole U now, I hate to say it, but be careful what you wish for type scenario, isn't it?
That's for my brother-in-law Tom, who's a Cole U fan. Yeah, careful what you wish for, Tom.
There you go. So yeah, I mean, Noel Hunt, really not sure much about his sort of credentials at this current moment. Yeah, I think it would be. I think it was perhaps a bit of a blow, no doubt, a bit of a blow to Cook that he's number 2. That Richardson apparently isn't coming now. Obviously, having signed the contract with Wigan, but fair play to him. You know, Wigan have been on a superb run, which has obviously earned him that contract. So. Yeah, difficult one for Cook, isn't it? You're right, because I think he, like we said, Roberts obviously came in initially, and it seemed that Richardson was a shoo-in, and obviously he couldn't really anticipate his obviously much improved performance at Wigan. So it'd be interesting, but no, if it's I wouldn't have thought perhaps it will be totally a role given to Kieran Dyer at this stage. So, but yeah, I'm all for Kieran Dyer, being around the first team, the first team scene, and it'd be nice to see John McGreal come in. I think if he is the man.
Good link to the a successful era as well. More on that to come as well. Seb, we were talking about this on our Zoom call yesterday, and one of our group, I think Mark it was, who said that a number 2 needs to have the ability to challenge and question the main man. And do you think any of those options would be able to do that? Do you think the squad will be able to understand 2 Scousers as 1 and 2? Who would be your favourite appointment?
Be like the Fast Show.
I can confirm working with Scousers, if you get 2 together, it can be very, very difficult to follow what they're saying. They sort of go into their own language, so they might need a third party as a translator. I'd personally prefer an external appointment. I'd love Kieran Dyer to be, stay as a first team coach, but I just think the club, with all the new fresh ideas that are coming in and the fresh voices, I think the assistant manager role would be a lot better served coming from that kind of position. Obviously, we all thought it'd be Richardson. Him and Cook have worked really, really well together in the past, so it is crucial that we get somebody in now. And if they're out of work now, let's not wait till the summer. I know we've only got 3 games to go, but let's get somebody in the next week or 2. If we were waiting for Richardson, there's no reason we can't go out and get somebody now, and hopefully Cook can strike up that relationship with them. I guess my only doubts with McGreal is, does he want to be an assistant manager long term, or are we going to be in a position in 6 months' time where a job comes up and he wants to go, and then are we back in the same boat potentially? But he's one of the stalwarts from the most recent bout of success we've had. We grew up, we were teenagers at the time, watching a ball playing centre back bring the ball forward. He's loved by the club, well respected, and I'd have no issues with John McGreal coming in at all. And hopefully him and Cook can get that right balance, because I think Cook needs it a little bit at the moment. I think he feels like he's a little bit on his own, I guess, with the decision making and the training and the tactics and stuff. And it'd be nice for him just to have that sounding board. And if it's McGreal, happy days. And Dave, we'll all recall the era of when Burley had there was a bit of a rotating door of assistant managers, wasn't there? When you had Stuart Houston and John Gorman. To Seb's point about an assistant manager who is looking to be a manager, is that a bad thing? Someone who's got pedigree and also ambition to the top job.
No, I think
more
Seb's
willing
right.
to be forthcoming.
The crucial point that Seb made, you need an assistant manager. I always refer back to the Phil Neal Taylor, you
Let's
know,
bust.
the
Let's bust.
famous documentary. Yeah, you can't be that. You just can't be that. You need someone to be able to challenge up. And I think someone like John McGreal coming in, he's obviously got that experienced man, played the game to obviously at the top level. Yeah, you'd think he would be. Yeah, he would be a man who could certainly challenge and question. So I think that's definitely what you need. So for me, it'd be an ideal fit.
I strategically used the word favorite. I'm revealing like the magician. This is like behind the magician's code as a host, because for those of you watching on YouTube, little scroller there from my friends at Favorite Chicken. You can still get 20% off, guys. And I haven't yet. I've been in Ipswich for 2 weeks and I still haven't done this. So my mission before the end of the season is to get myself some Favorite Chicken with 20% off for our subscribers. Use the dedicated URL www.chicken-ipswich.co.uk. I mean, brilliant domain name. And use the code BM20 at checkout. And Dave, you're a fan, and Seb, you can.
I can thoroughly endorse it. Yeah, having had a brilliant delivery of I think it's about 2 weeks ago now. Yeah, absolutely first class stuff. So yeah, right behind it.
New ones. And Seb, we'll helicopter some up to you in North Wales, or you can come down across the border now.
I'll make a dash for it. Yeah, I'll make a dash down to Suffolk for sit in my parents' garden and order some Favorite Chicken before heading back up again.
Lovely stuff. Continuing the news, guys, I will kind of skip through. There's a couple of bits and pieces here of just administration news, so feel free to chip in. This is from our friends at TWTD reporting. Scott Barron, former left back, who I always thought Scott Barron was underrated when he was playing for us under Royal, went on to join Millwall. Currently owns a sports management company, and is being linked to return as head of recruitment. I'm not looking for an incisive analytical point. It's just interesting news. And any thoughts on Scott Barron? Welcome. Otherwise, I'm happy to skip through to the next bit.
Not so much on Scott Barron, but it is encouraging, isn't it, that we are looking to, completely
head of recruitment. What a
completely
great idea.
redo. Yeah, what a crazy strategy to have in 2021. Hopefully we'll see several more titles and stuff coming into the building relatively soon.
Head of fitness, head of sports.
That's just a fitness coach, just a goalkeeping coach as well, maybe. Revolutionary stuff. No, it's encouraging, isn't it? Hopefully they're going to act pretty quickly come the season end, and we're going to see all these department heads and stuff moved in fairly quickly. And given that we've had absolutely no structure for the last 13 years, bar one person making decisions, if we can get something done properly and become a bit more professional, then we're all for it, aren't we?
Yeah, who knows? May even be a set piece coach. You never know.
Oh,
you never know.
Throwing coach. Moving on, I think it's been a good week in the news for our friends at Game Changer and/or Three Lions. TWTD reported earlier in the week that the Ipswich PLC shareholders will retain their 12.5% stake in the club, which I think is a good thing symbolically. There is some kind of financial stuff. Ben always defers to you on this kind of stuff, Dave, but I think I understand the words, but feel free to clarify. But I think it pretty much makes sense. The 12.5% stake in the club was fine when Marcus Evans was in charge, because he largely funded the club through taking loans. But because we know the Arizona Pension Fund, or ORG, are liquid, and have equity they can pump in, that might lead to that 12.5% being diluted in the future. I think I've said all of that correctly. So there you go. So
that's how I understood it. That's how I read it anyway. Yeah. Not sure I'd want. Not sure at my advanced age. Not sure I'd want much of my pension fund invested there. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
Well, maybe. I'll come on to interviews that Berke Bakai has been doing this week, and also Brett Johnson in a second as well. Really positive stuff. Berke Bakai, we've not heard a huge amount from. Clearly comes across as just a passionate football person, which is brilliant to have in a position of such significance at the club. He's kind of. I wonder, Dave, to your point about whether a lot of the interviews that have come out, they're clearly for our benefit as supporters, but I wonder whether they're for the benefit of the ORG, their kind of their pension fund backers as well, because there's a lot of positive stuff here, but there's a lot of talk about the last thing I think in the Kings of Anglia interview. There's lots of stuff about getting it done, getting the resources, which we've started to see. But it's kind of it's get to the EPL and then and then go big. And I think that's the kind of stuff that a pension fund that's investing
So they got to hear. That's exactly what they want to hear. You know, they clearly did their homework. You know, they're talking about the Burko, the first one I saw. Clearly done his homework and was aware of perhaps the heritage of Ipswich Town, which was great, and referred to the unbeaten European home record, which is great. Clearly done his homework, and he's obviously a passionate, very much passionate support. Obviously a long-standing Galatasaray support, and I used to not for a few years now, but I used to travel over to Istanbul for work. Couple of times a year for a stretch of about 5 or 6 years. Never got to a game, but was over there in Istanbul during game nights, and they are just fanatic. They are absolute. Well, you've seen it on TV. They are mad, absolutely mad for it. So that was good. Came across really well, I thought, and obviously the occasional Didier Drogba name drop, which always helps, So no, I was really impressed with all that. But yeah, clearly, sometimes it does sort of make me sort of cringe a bit when they start talking about franchises and things like that, and you think, oh, and look, clearly that's their ambition. Obviously that was ultimately Marcus Evans' aim, but clearly these guys have got the clout to do it and the drive and ambition to do it. And one point he did make, I think it was either him or maybe the subsequent interview with his colleague, that they did sort of almost refer to Marcus Evans as being an absentee owner, which was an interesting point.
I've got those quotes. So those were from Brett Johnson. Let me give those quotes now in case folk haven't got to read it. These were quotes that he gave to Que Golazo, which is a podcast, I think, a spin-off of CBS Sports in the States. And he said, with the utmost respect to Marcus Evans, it's no secret he was a fairly an absentee owner. You really have to live, breathe, eat this stuff 24 hours a day, and it's a team effort. I feel very fortunate with the success I've had at Phoenix Rising. The credit goes to other individuals, but I think coming on to Ipswich, having Paul Cook in his experience and Mark Ashton, and so making some fairly dramatic wholesale changes over the summer window. Hopefully to restore Ipswich back to its former glory. Interesting thoughts on Marcus Evans. They've been generally quite respectful, but I think now the deal is done. I guess they don't need to maybe tread so carefully around Marcus and Marcus's feelings. But a lot of the stuff we're seeing is the complete polar opposites there of the kind of approach that Marcus Evans took, which was early on have the CEO, so there's maybe a consistency there. But I don't think there was a huge amount of other infrastructural personnel in the right positions. And early days, he was fairly absentee but wanted to be involved in decision making. And as Brett Johnson has said there, it's a 24/7 living, breathing organism that can't wait for an owner who may or may not be in this country to sign off on decisions. So it's positive to hear that that's the structure they want, and they're going to trust the likes of Paul Cook and Mark Ashton to get on with things.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I don't think they've really missed a beat in all these interviews since they've bought us. We are all just lapping up. I understand part of that is because we've been, so on a downward curve for the last 13 years, etc. But from a PR point of view and from a media point of view, that they're saying all the right things that we want to hear. Which is, thank God, if we were sat here about to discuss this latest 0-0 draw with Evans still in charge, we'd be thinking what is going to happen next year. So they are getting all the off-field stuff so far absolutely right. They've moved quickly to announce Ashton. They're giving their public backing to Cook, and I guess we'll start to see, hopefully, come the end of the season, positions and playing staff will start to get filled in fairly quickly. But from a PR point of view, they are hitting all the right numbers, and we are just all absolutely lapping up. And it makes you excited as well, doesn't it? When you hear about your club being spoken about in these kind of ways, they refer to the rich history and the the traditions of the club, and those kind of terms. We've not heard those kind of things. I remember Sky Sports in the Swindon game back in January, they described Portman Road as some sort of kind of grand home of English football or something. We've not really heard these terms given the massive decline over the last few years. So it's so refreshing and so nice to hear how we are viewed in the game. Okay, albeit by our new owners, but it just makes you feel better about the whole situation, and I'm really, really excited for what the summer's going to bring.
And Brett Johnson was very specific about, that all paths led to Ipswich on this investment, and credited Frank Yallop, obviously, who we all know. And back to kind of Burke Bakai, I thought I would leave you guys on. He was asked about his vision, and this kind of got me a little bit excited. So the vision is, and I say this with utmost humility. I'm not saying it's going to be automatic and we just press some buttons and it's going to happen. What I will tell you is we'll put the appropriate resources, starting with people, with our CEO, with our manager, with our chairman, with ourselves, people and resources and discipline. Do you want me to discipline them? I think if you put those things in effect and you are respectful of each other's lanes and you empower qualified people that have done these things before, you can get the job done. Get it done. Get the resources. And to me, that just the stuff about stay in your lane as well. And I think the latter end of the Marcus Evans era, Dave, we hear things. It's just, as Joe has said before, it's a small town, so it doesn't take too long before you bump into someone who's in the know at Playford Road and Portman Road. Marcus have been getting more and more involved and kind of micromanaging this season, and owner really should be owning, shouldn't he?
Yeah, from what I understand, Rich, it's been like that for the last 4 or 5 seasons. It's been like that, and I think the key word you made in your last summary there was empowerment. I don't think anybody was empowered. No one had any power to make any decision down there, as far as I'm concerned, from small to whatever sort of decision, as far as I'm aware. And I think the most important thing is now, the CEO coming in, the chairman, the CEO. These are football people from a football background, and that's the key, I think.
Yeah,
they understand it. They get it.
And one thing that Brett Johnson's. I said that was going to be the last bit, but I haven't read my own notes. But one good thing that Brett Johnson mentioned, Seb, and this is something that again Marcus Evans really failed to grasp the importance of, was how the club represents the community in the town. And Brett Johnson's quote: "These teams ideally live and thrive because of the community support. The supporters in Phoenix that were behind the predecessor of the Days of Phoenix Rising got me through some dark periods of time I'll never forget. I'm grateful to them. So by extension, I'm grateful to the global community of Ipswich supporters. I'm going to work with the extended team tirelessly to reward them and get this club back to a point of pride for the broader community, because it's where it deserves to be." But this talk of the football club not being a kind of institution in its own right that it is part of, and the 12.5% share holding thing is perhaps part of that. It belongs to the community and it belongs to the club and the fans. And he had similar thoughts on the European Sports League, Super League. That's the kind of stuff that you want to hear as well.
Absolutely,
actions and words, I get, but
absolutely. And he spoke as well, didn't he, later on in the interview about coming over for hopefully the first game of the season if the world gets back to normal. And what I liked was the fact he said, we're going to come over there, see the game, and then he said, and we'll spend some time in the community and talk to people and meet people. We'd see Evans in the box every now and again. But did he do any kind of anything after that? Not that I'm aware of. Whereas I get the impression these guys would probably come for a week, see a game, and then spend time meeting the official supporters, trust, that kind of thing. Maybe doing Q&A things at a place in Portman. I could see all those kind of activities taking place, and then that's great to see, because owning a football club, you're sort of you're the custodian of it. A football club does belong to the fans. So at the end of the day, buyers will come and go, players will come and go, managers will come and go, but we are stuck with Ipswich Town. Not always a good thing given the current situation, but to get that he sort of he understands that, he values that, is really, really positive to see. And the whole town wins if the club is successful. Let's be honest, the whole town wins. If we go up, it makes such a big difference to the local pubs, restaurants, hotels. It could be a real boost for the town of Ipswich, and it's brilliant that they look further afield than just what happens on the pitch and just that that square half a mile around Portman Road.
I remember when we got promoted in 2000, how suddenly the town felt a lot, the start of the season, it felt like shops were opening and, there was merchandise everywhere and all that kind of stuff. You're right. It's a virtuous circle, isn't it?
Can't you remember that first home game against Man United? I mean, what the hell? It was probably one of the best, undoubtedly probably best atmosphere down there for the last 20 seasons. The whole day, it was they got it was the unveiling of the statue and everything, wasn't it? The whole day, Bobby Charlton was there. Was incredible, wasn't it? Absolutely incredible. But I think, Rich, you've overlooked the most important part of Brett Johnson, which I think I know where where I'm going.
Sorry, yeah, good point.
Is of course his revelation of.
Well. If Ipswich Town,
and your reaction to,
we write this down, everyone, and others as well, including Mullet. I think if Ipswich ever returns to the Premier League, the first thing that new owner Brett Johnson will do is get a tattoo of the club's badge. Yup, Ipswich Premier League. That is a tattoo," said Johnson. I just have to figure out a way to break it to my wife. Well, no such issues for me. I'll just get it right in the middle of my face. That'll be fine. But yeah, there you go. I've committed along with others to support Brett in doing the same. So maybe we should all get it done on the first day of the Premier League season somewhere at Portman Road. You know, you can queue up like you're getting your COVID jab or something. So
I think, and then Jules Hughes tweeted his, which I think's prominently disposed somewhere on the side of his calf or something like that. I think it is. Yeah,
nice.
I think it's been there a few years. Jules, bless him.
Yeah, seen some interesting
seen
times.
Some action. I think I've seen some action. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Bukai stuff all over Ipswich media this week. The interview with Brett Johnson, which is great, which I think we might have retweeted from the main account. If you're looking for K Galazzo, which is QUE Galazzo, and CBS Sports, you'll quickly find that. But a lot of people are liking and retweeting that. Really worth a listen. We'll do one last bit of news, and then we have to talk about actual football, gents, I'm afraid. News that broke last night, a kind of collective statement by the football community, the FA Premier League, EFL, FA Women's Super League, FA Women's Championship, PFA, LMA, the PGMOL, the Professional Game Match Officials Board, Kick It Out, and FSA, the Football Supporters Association, will unite for a social media boycott from 3 o'clock on Friday, the 30th of April, to midnight or just before midnight on Monday, the 3rd of May, in response to the ongoing sustained discriminatory abuse received online by players and many others connected to the game. The boycott shows English football coming together to emphasise that social media companies must do more to eradicate online hate, while highlighting the importance of educating people in the ongoing fight against discrimination. So, as the statement suggests, guys, the boycott like this from football in isolation is not going to end online abuse in totality. But hopefully it demonstrates that the game, and we've seen that with the Super League, again, they're acting in a group way and taking proactive steps can achieve positive things. Obviously, something we talk quite a lot of on the pod about being respectful on social media and being respectful of opinions and particularly people's backgrounds and differences. This is a good thing, and it's great that the club is supporting it and the football community at large. I think we can just do thumbs up to that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's hope it really invokes some change, because some of the stuff we see is abhorrent and disgusting, and it does need to change. And fingers crossed, all these clubs coming together can make a bit of a difference.
No, all for that.
Yep. Let's bring it bang up to date. I was going to try to find a segue through that, and I thought just better of doing that. So let's clean break, stop, pause. On to AFC Wimbledon, gents, and I think we'll hop, skip, and jump through this as swiftly as we can, really. 3 changes from the Northampton game. Cornell in for Holy, probably the most eye-catching of those. Bishop in for Sears, notionally. Hawkins in for Jackson. Your thoughts on those changes, Seb, particularly, I guess, Cornell?
Well, he needs to see him, doesn't he? We all need to see him. Holy's come under some fire recently. He is what he is. He's a mid-table League One goalkeeper, but he's come in for some real stick, mostly from yourself, about flapping for crosses and not dominating his area. So, we have to. Cook needs to see. I didn't criticise
him for that. I didn't criticise him for flapping for crosses.
It's hard to keep track of your.
I can add it in if you want.
Yeah, add it to the list. No, we need to see Cornell, don't we? Let's be honest. Cook needs to see what he can do, what he can't do. I guess hopefully we might be in the market for a new keeper, so he's got to take a look at him and give him a proper chance. I think he'll probably play the remaining 3 games now. I don't really see any reason to bring Holy back in. I thought he played really well yesterday. Well, not really well. He was the best of a bad bunch. Hawkins up front, I guess, is a one to hopefully hold the ball up a little bit and hopefully change the way we play instead of aiming long balls towards Jackson and him not winning anything for 90 minutes. I guess the plan was Hawkins can hold it up, and the likes of Bennett, Bishop and Edwards in the 3 behind can look to support him, but that didn't really work. And Bishop came in for Sears. I guess again with Bishop, he needs to see if he can really do the number 10 role. Missed last game with an illness, but is he going to be one that Paul Cook could hang his hat on and say, yep, you're my number 10 for next season? Based on yesterday, I don't think so.
Sears is bombed out of the squad completely after Tuesday night, and Bishop comes in for him. Do we think that there wasn't any chat of injuries? I don't think I remember him going off hobbling. As that might be the audition over for Freddie Sears, do we think?
Yeah, I think we'll probably see him return up the A12 at some point during this close season. I wouldn't surprise me at all. Just going back. Yeah, I mean Cornell. yeah, you'd have thought, particularly, he would have wanted to have a look at Cornell anyway, and he didn't do a lot wrong yesterday. And I take your point. And Mick Mills didn't do him any favour, did he, in commentary, where perhaps you tend not to pick that up. And he said, "Well, why didn't he come for that? He's just static on the line." And I think that's the point you're trying to make. He doesn't flap at crosses. He's just a bit static, isn't he? But no, other than that, had a good game, made some good saves. Good save from the free kick. He routine-ish penalty save, but he was aware for the second follow-up. So yeah, I thought he'd done well. And like Seb says, I think he'll stay on the side for the rest of the season. As for Bishop, he showed glimpses, hasn't he, since he's been back? He showed glimpses in certain areas of what he can do. He'll get the ball, drop his shoulder, run. Invariably, I think Joe's picked up on this on recent podcasts that, typical of League One, that he will do that. And as he drives forward, he'll just be cynically taken out and, and a player will just buy a yellow card for that. So, yeah, he didn't show up well yesterday. And, Bennett and Edwards, wow.
Yeah, more on that.
I don't know where you can go with that. Edwards, perhaps we'll get to this. Go on, Kate. We may even get to this, but Edwards, I think Craig said yesterday on our group that he's the one that infuriates him most, and he's the one that I think infuriates me most because he's got it. Edwards, hasn't he? He's hands up. He's a little lightweight, but he's got it. He can beat a man. He's got pace. He's got it in him. I thought against Northampton in the week, he was our best player. We thought, great shot early. Early didn't even think he could kick it that hard or far. I think someone else said that. And was looked really good at times. At Northampton. Let's put it in perspective, but. Wow, yesterday, and Bennett's as well. Bennett's first half, I've said before, I think it's a player there. He's got a lovely touch and he looks a player, doesn't he? But I'm not convinced. He makes that run, drops his shoulder, makes that run to the edge of the box, commits defenders, and then there's just no confidence. There's just no confidence just to lash it. Tries to place it and he's awful. And yeah, those two yesterday, you would say, I don't think we'll see Bennett's again after that. Surely, I can't believe we will.
No, that's really frustrating with Bennett. How many times have we seen him absolutely wallop across? He gets the technique and the pace so wrong when he's doing a cross, and yet the one time you want him to put his laces through the ball and absolutely
he tries to place it and shanks it.
Yeah, exactly. It's so frustrating.
And he must be frustrating because he does look a player. You need to see some close control, and he's got that ability to drop his shoulder. Well, not even that. Just he's got it within him, but it's just I don't know what it is. Just complete lack of confidence. Surely it's got to be, hasn't it? Got to be.
We'll get Paul Cook's views on the performances later on because that's probably just worth talking about on the pod alone. Just very quickly, so we can pay some respect to Wimbledon because they were involved in the fixture as well.
Good.
One change for them: Ollie Palmer comes in for Ryan Longman. Ryan Longman comes in for Ollie Palmer, who'd got quite a good partnership with Joe Piggott, who I wouldn't mind if he was a target in
good
the summer. Perhaps.
Liked him. Strong. Obviously got goals and strong as well. Yeah, put his penalty to one side, doesn't matter. But yeah, good. Yeah, liked him a lot. Yeah.
Some interesting ex-Ipswich news on the Wimbledon bench. Shane McLaughlin, Irish midfielder, won Town App in the Crystal Palace League Cup game where we played the kids, and there was a 2-1 defeat, very narrow defeat. He was on the bench for Wimbledon yesterday. The first half, we'll cut through that pretty quick, and Paul Cook's comments on that are pretty stark. To me, it's punctuated by really poor defensive organisation, particularly. I don't think, apart from Vincent Young, I think all three of the back line are worth a finger point at some point. Wolfenden kind of maybe less so than those. McGuinness had a really, really shaky start. Ward. And
to be honest, I thought Vincent Young struggled first half as well. Gave the ball away. And I think I mentioned that. I thought, he's not at his finest game. Obviously, second half improved greatly, but first half, I think that perhaps contributed to it because he was poor. Also, it was just a general malaise across the whole back four. I thought first half.
Lackadaisical, wasn't it? There's blocks from Wolford and there's glass blocks from McGuinness, from Radoni. The chance you've mentioned, Dave, on 15 when it's great play from. It's actually a really good move. There's Vincent Young's kind of twists and turns in the Town right off to Hawkins, who released his Bennett's with a kind of first time flicked pass and said this is what we said in our Zoom call is Bennett tries to finish this like he's playing FIFA rather than just stick his laces through the ball and stick it in the corner.
It's what Craig said last week, isn't it?
I'm not sure what his foot is doing on the ball.
Trying to put some swaz on it and have a great goal for his highlights reel for wherever he gets sent round to for next season. Yeah, the one time you want him to hit it, he just doesn't. And I mean, it's a real woeful shot, isn't it? He does okay to get himself in the position. He's not really under any pressure. I think he's left-footed, so it's on his favourite side as well, and he just very badly gets it wrong. Yeah, just hit it. Just hit it as hard as you can and see what happens.
Lash it. Yeah,
but like you said, he's got the FIFA, like Craig said, the FIFA finesse button is left permanently turned on with pretty much all of our players, and that's the result of it.
And pretty much straight away, Edwards loses possession. Long win into Woodyard to Rodoni. Who's basically in the middle of the goal, has the whole thing to aim for and side foots it wide. I mean, that was a pretty, in terms of clear-cut chances, those two in quick succession, you'll struggle to find any that would be missed in any other fixture in the country, I suspect, yesterday. And then 24 minutes, kind of halfway through the first half, pretty obvious penalty. Pigott is pulled back, I think, by McGuinness. Low penalty, which Cornell gets it the right way. I think he saves it with his leg. As you say, Dave is quick to respond with the rebound to kind of prevent anything else happening. But in terms of the first half, that's pretty much it. And Paul Cook's reaction to the first half, I'll lob that in there before we talk about the second. The first half performance, I do the voice. The first half performance is possibly, and I've been in and around football for a long, long time, as bad as I've ever seen in one of our teams play.
It's uncanny.
Pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that.
You change it halfway through. It could be him. Halfway through, change it to a completely different voice.
Forget the exclusives of Brett Johnson and Berge. We've got Paul Cook. Get it all.
I need to figure out the Westlife key change part way through that. But he's whether he's I love how Paul Cook's post match is kind of contradict. Like, I mustn't say something too stupid or whatever, but that's the worst performance I've ever seen for one of my teams.
I think
pretty harsh.
Justified in saying that.
Yeah,
probably it was dreadful.
Pretty accurate.
It was dreadful. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And didn't he say on Tuesday night? Didn't he say I'm not going to throw the players under the bus anymore after the game? He was sort of almost apologetic for the Demolition Man comments, and he said, there's no point me destroying them in public anymore. And then 4 days later he comes out and said it's the worst half football he's ever seen. Crazy, but he's not wrong. No,
well, the second half is moderately better. The introduction of Dobra at halftime makes a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
He has a couple of efforts. Pigott, as you said, Dave, probably the most threatening player on the whole pitch, almost gets an own goal, heading in Dazell's the only
for
once
once
set
the
piece.
best delivery by 1,000,000% of the afternoon. The best delivery, actually whips it in for once with pace. He just doesn't hang out at the back post or anything like that. It's a great ball in. Actually, I mean, it's a fairly routine ball. It's a good angle, but Pigott would have counted himself unlucky had that gone in. But that was probably his chance, wasn't it?
60 minutes, Edwards launches a corner into the AXA building, and then just a few minutes later, Scouse comes on for Bishop. Downs is pushed up in a number 10 sub as maybe a little bit of experiment.
That was a really weird change for me. You need a goal and you bring on Cole Scouse. It just, for me, that seemed very, very strange. And Bishop, he wasn't really at it, but who are you pinning your hat on more to create a chance or score a goal or put a good through ball through? We know what Scouse is going to do, but it was a very strange decision. And Downs, although he got forward well, again, he doesn't strike me as a natural number 10 either. So experimental, but a bit of a strange one, I thought.
And there's a double effort which the keeper kind of palms just narrowly wide of the unrushing Downs in his new advanced position. Drennan comes on for Hawkins. Hawkins didn't really get involved too much, did he? But
he won a couple of flick-ons, didn't he, in the first half? But it doesn't really matter who's up there in that lone striker position. If it's not Norwood, they're really going to struggle to influence the game.
Yep. Cordell palms away a free kick from Pigott. Then 74th minute, Town clock up. 10 hours of action without scoring a goal. We haven't yet had the Renegade Statman official. We need when the record is set, but I think we've now got the joint number of 0-0 results in a season.
So I can give you that.
Yeah.
I did a stat thing. I can give you that. So the record's 714 minutes, which was in the middle of that 94-90. Well, not in the middle. During that 94-95 horrific run, which included the 9-0 at Man United. So it started with I I think, a Lee Chapman winner at home against Southampton, which was Alex Maffey's debut, actually,
Remember
and
that?
ended literally 2 months later, I think, at Highbury. As Ian Marshall walked. I think it was just out of sympathy. So the Arsenal players were saying, "Mate, scored for like 1 million games, so let him walk through." If you remember, he walked through, didn't he? After Wrighty, I think, had already scored a hat-trick. 4-0 down at the time, to be fair. So that ended it, and that was a run of I don't know, 8. I think it was 8 games, no goals scored, just the 27 conceded. So put it in a little bit of perspective. But then I looked at the Man United team and that 9-0, and that does kind of put it in perspective. And I also compared it with our team that day, and it really does put it in perspective. So at the moment, that's 714, and we're currently up to 619. So it's close. It's getting close.
And yeah, three more games to go. Any coincidence that run coincided with a new manager coming in, trying to instill perhaps a new style of play that the playing squad that was there at the time, Dave, couldn't hack? Do I read anything into that?
Well, he made it clear, didn't he? He said, "I haven't got the people to play my favoured 4-2-3-1," so he chopped and changed it a little bit. But now he seems to have gone back to 4-2-3-1. I guess what he said at the start is true. He hasn't got the players that can play this role. The 3 behind the striker are absolutely critical, and ours just lack quality, don't they? Let's be honest.
We just lack. I watched Wimbledon, and yeah, I think you might have said that, Rich, or someone said it, that Brenner and Mick Mills are making them sound like bloody Barcelona, but all these teams that we play against have so much more, I'm trying to think, fluidity, just pass up. It's easy. So maybe we're just easy to pass through. I don't know, but it just seems much more easier on the eye, much more, constructive, easy flowing. You watch us playing, it's also deliberate, isn't it? And slow and deliberate. And Dazelle went off yesterday, didn't it? And I've got to say, we looked a little bit more, we looked a little bit more, I don't know. We seemed to gain a little bit more urgency after he went off. Maybe, I know, perhaps last 50, whatever it was. I don't know. Last 15 minutes, was it? Maybe not. But we seemed to. But we are just so slow and deliberate. And clearly, if that's the case, we haven't got the players that the way he wants. The way the new manager wants to play. But it was it's just painful to watch, and it has been for week after week, isn't it?
We did get Jackson into one position where he had a effort on goal with the angle.
Cute.
But the only other action I've got, 84th minute, Graham Edwards wins a free kick in a really good position, potentially borderline penalty, and then launches it into the curve bar. Gents.
Very funny tweet. Very funny tweet. Was it Joe tweeted that last night with the Ant and Deck?
I think he passed it on. Someone else tweeted it.
Go on, Guion.
Smash it as hard as you can.
Smash it as hard as you can over the Cobbold stand. Brilliant.
Ant and Deck undercover,
Yeah, I mean that. I had an exchange with Ben this morning. That does go down. It's still not as good as Larson Touré's corner when he kicked the corner flag, but it's up there, isn't it? It's up there. I mean, when I first saw it, I had to look it back. I don't know I was watching iFollow yesterday, obviously in the shadow of the co-op stand, wasn't it? The shadow was there, and I thought I'd sort of looked at it and I thought, he's had a go there, but not bad. Defending has deflected off the defender's head, and it's just he's really cracked that hard, but. No, he's just booted that straight out.
Let's move it on.
It's funny.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Do you know what? Just quickly, I was trying to gauge when I had crikey 18 months ago, whenever it was, when I was last at the game. What made me laugh. I was trying to gauge some people that sit near me, not big fans of Guion Edwards, and I was just trying to gauge what their reaction would have been, and that made it even funnier. Actually, I'd have actually exploded probably.
Let's do the rest of the Paul Cook post match, because that was probably the most entertaining bit of yesterday. I can do the voice again if you want, but this bit
we need it.
This reminded me of the opening of Three Lions when you hear Trevor Brookie. We're not positive enough. We don't. We'll keep on conceding bad goals. We don't win any contacts on a football pitch. We don't win any second balls. We don't show any fight, any desire to win. We think we can just turn up and play. With a stadium that's seen such great teams, it's like we've won a raffle to play at this ground, and we don't really deserve the right to. That's sad, isn't it? That's really sad. It's all on me. Is it on him? Look, notice how I act.
Amazing,
honestly,
and
serious, straight, brilliant.
Is it on him? I mean, to me, and I was going to come to you on this, Dave, because you've been pretty consistent with this about the players not downing tools. Do you still stick by that at the moment?
I just don't think players down tools, do they? When they get on the pitch, I just think they're just not good enough. I do question the quality of the squad. You know, the squad, how it's built up, you know, pre-season, post-season, even at the start of the season, with our strength of squad, and who said it? Was it Jimmy Walker said it, didn't it? If we don't get in the top 4, you know, we all want shooting or firing from our jobs. Talk about live by the sword. I question the quality. I really do. I honestly question the quality, and it'll be interesting to see, you know, these players that are out of contract and go, how they develop, and if they develop, or if they just don't disappear completely. Because, I don't know. Look, someone raised a point the other day. I think I might have spoken about it last time I was on. I think it was Chris Rand who said, look, is it a case of all these out of contract players, their agents in their ear saying, look, you know, you've got 6 games to go, you're out of contract, you ain't being kept on. Just be wary, you get a serious injury now, your career's gone. You know, is it a bit of that? It's just such a weird, unique situation that these players are in, that the club is in at the moment, that it's just unprecedented, isn't it? So I just don't know. I still say, you know, a player goes on the pitch, or you try and win the game, you try, don't you? But, you know, I question, you know, at the end of the day, whether the quality is there, whether they're good enough. And my thought, these for me, these last 3 games can't come quick enough, and let's just get this season over and, you know, on to the exciting times and what will be has bloody incredible close season, won't it? Because it will for the club. Just, you know, the changes,
a level of recruitment we've never seen before.
Goodness me, it is going to be seismic, isn't it? So let's just move on. But I don't know. I don't know. Swift, Seb's. What's your take on it, Seb?
They're just
shake
not
my head.
All that frustrates me is, you know, some of the things that we are really bad at do come to me as coaching issues. So I can never work out a defending set piece. Are we zonal marking, or are we man marking, or is it a weird? Terrible. Yeah, is it a weird hybrid? So, and I understand if, you know, 100% behind Cook. Cook is the man for me. He should not be judged until probably 10, 15 games into next season. I think with the right recruitment and the right backroom team, he will do really, really well for us. But there is just a slight little niggle that a couple of these things do appear to be coaching issues. And like you say, I'm not entirely sure. You know, these players will want to play somewhere else next season. So the advert of them, you know, if the potential people are looking at them, all you've got to look at is a reel of our last 4, 5, 6 games. And if they see players that have down tools, they're doing themselves out of future employment. So like you, I don't really get that whole thing about them just giving up. And the only other frustrating thing for me is that, you know, Bennett's now for the 4th game in a row, 5th game in a row has done nothing, and yet he might well start next week. I don't understand. Hopefully now we'll see Dobra maybe coming, but I can't see what we would have got less out of a Lancaster, for example, or somebody, as opposed to just starting the same.
It's interesting.
We see the same 14, 15 players every single game at the moment in a variety of substitute roles and starting roles, and it just strikes me, if they're not doing what he's telling them Monday to Friday, then why are they still playing on the weekend? Why are we not seeing on the bench? You know, why have Enciala and Chambers on the bench yesterday? That's a centre half and a right back cover, which Chambers can do both of. Why not have somebody like a Lancaster, or, you know, maybe a Tyree Simpson instead of Aaron Drinnan? I'm not saying start the kids, etc. However, I think, you know, have these players on the bench to maybe make a bit of a difference. And if they're not doing, if the senior players aren't doing what they're drilled Monday to Friday, at least you've got others who can come in and, you know, they're not going to do any worse. Let's be honest.
How this would all be playing out if crowds were there, God only knows. God only knows. I mean, I made that reference to Edwards just to go, and honestly, I dread to think how this would be playing out now. It would be playing out different. But I think, do you know what, getting back to my earlier point, a telling point, and Cook referred to this when he said about Gary Roberts coming into the club, and he said Gary Roberts made the point, he said he was really surprised at the poor quality there, the actual quality within the squad. And I honestly think Seb's right. You know, coach, I mean, Christ, we're appalling defending set play. We are just appalling. There's obviously some message not getting through there, because you're dead right. Are we zonal marking? Are we man to man? It's just not apparent at all. But I think there's something to do with the quality there. But let's just get this over with and move on. Yeah. Goodness me.
Do you want one more bit of Cook before we do the questions?
Brilliant. Yeah, for those that are listening.
Go on. Have you still got the voice? Is he still here? Is he still in the room? Is he still in the building? Oh, he is.
Yeah, just need to
channel it.
I need to find it. Most of like Derek Acora. I need to find my inner Cook.
Channel you in. Hey, here it comes. Hey,
there needs to be a word to get me into it. It might just drop in suddenly. It's not like
you can't just switch it on.
I felt second half we might have nicked a goal, but you watch us and hope. I've never watched a team and hoped. Oh wait, I've screwed it up. Yeah, okay. I've never watched the team.
That was Rich screwing it up, not Paul.
I've always watched the team and believed. With this team, with the greatest respect, I don't enjoy watching it. I feel sorry for our fans watching an iFollow. Marcus told me once, I've lost it, guys. I've lost it. It's not as good anymore, is it? Marcus told me once there was 10,000 for our first games watching me on the iFollow. I wouldn't want to know the figure now, as I'm sure they found something better to do than watch us. Sad, guys. Let's go on to the questions, and apologies that Cook. You know, if I channel him, it is only for a time, guys. I can't, you know, the spirit world is, you know, it's not so strong today. The Wi-Fi signal is struggling.
Can I just add something to that, just to sum up the last few seasons perfectly? Did you see who was it? I think it was Michael Richards show reeling David McGoldrick on Match of the Day.
Yeah.
Anyway, move on.
Yeah. A few comments as well as questions this week. Hello to Tim. Is it okay if I listen to the news section and skip forward to the questions we see out of the game review? The game review is pretty good, I thought. Paul Cook turned up for a bit of it. If so, could you publish the timings? I love the Blue Monday Ball by football. Ben, morning, whenever, Ben. 6 games without a goal. Do you think the players are involved in some sort of match-fixing bank scene? The official answer to the podcast is no. Even the poorest teams in any league score a goal. Well, you know, own goal, as I tweeted earlier in the week, 3rd joint top scorer. Nearly did it for us yesterday. Super Fran, last minute question, hoping makes the cuts. Well, it has, Super Frans. It's been suggested by the fans group I mix with that Paul Cook's post-match words are now bordering on or actually bullying. What do you think? What do you think, Seb?
No, not for me. He's just a passionate, honest man, isn't it? Speaking straight after a game, he's saying what we're all thinking. I don't think it's bullying at all. I just think it's a disappointed. He's pretty disappointed in himself. He's definitely disappointed in the quality of the players, and it's just pure honesty, I think.
And to be fair to Cook, he's a human being, right? And who has a level of standards from his previous clubs, and he would have wanted to come in and probably be in the playoffs. And
absolutely.
Like us, you know, there are worse things said by emotional football supporters at the end of matches in the ground when we're there and on social media that will be much worse and more offensive there. At least Paul Cook has not made it personal by singling out specific individuals, which I would argue does constitute bullying, using Super Friend's word. But we don't know what Paul Cook has been doing since day one. It could be that Paul Cook has tried. I'm now speaking about him like he did on Thursday in the third person. He's probably tried a myriad of different things to try to eke out a little bit of performance from the players. And there's a point, and Paul Hurst found it's pretty early. You get frustrated and you react and you say stuff in the press because maybe that's a strategy. You know, I've tried softly. I've tried kind of coaching and arm on the shoulder. And eventually, when you're putting in performances like that, sometimes it's got to be called out publicly, doesn't it, guys? Am I being too critical?
No, I think you're right. And I think, you know, the key word you use there, he's a passionate man, isn't he? You know, he's a passionate man. It must be so frustrating for him, as he said. What he said in the interview yesterday, 13 games in, 2 wins and 5 or 6 draws? You know, he would have expected much more than that. So it's frustration. You know, he works with these players on the training ground, and clearly, you know, it's not working out there on the pitch. So it is just pure outlet of frustration, I think.
Yeah. Yane asks us about benching Chambers. He's kind of given us a few options here. A power play move. Seen enough of him. Wants him at the club next season. Doesn't want to take a risk with injuries. Seen enough of him. Doesn't want him at the club. You know, what's your theory on Chambers, Seb?
I think he's just showing him if he wants to stay, what the role is going to be for him next year. I think, you know, he's come out and spoken about it and said there'll be an offer here for Luke. What that looks like, we don't know. I can't do the voice like you. What that looks like, we don't know at the moment. But I think he's probably preparing him and saying, you know, if you're here next year, this is your role. You know, you'll train hard Monday to Friday, but you are going to be a bench option moving forward.
And what can you do to be in? I was watching Last Chance U on Netflix last night about college universities or where players who are kind of fallen out of favor with proper established colleges go to play American football. And there are a lot of players who were bright young things, got into trouble and end up in this East Mississippi college. And they had a guy a quarterback who, big name thing, got into a very public barroom situation and ended up at this place. But he realized that he was a focal point for the rest of the players to try to encourage them on the sidelines when he wasn't playing. And I just wonder, the bench is very passive to me. And I wonder whether, to your point, Seb, Cook is kind of suggesting to Chambers, well, what can you do to help me G these guys up? You're seen as a big part of the dressing room. Be another voice for me. Do you reckon that's part of it, perhaps?
Yeah, potentially. Go on, sorry, Dave.
No, go on, you go.
Just to reiterate what he said, he is a massive part of the dressing room. He takes the young players to his house and puts them under his wing with a bit of guidance and stuff. So you would have thought he is the general for Cook, so to speak, in the dressing room, and I guess he needs that from a bench point of view as well.
I agree. I agree, and I think that to put it in perspective, I think I've said before, absolute model professional. Can't knock him for that. Absolutely brilliant and I think he's been a good captain. But I think you can safely say if Luke Chambers first day of next season starts in our first 11, our summer recruitment won't have been all that. I think it's fair to say. So I think I'd leave it at that. But no, I totally agree. If there's a role with him, if there is a role for Luke Chambers from within the club, then yeah, I think that can only be encouraged.
Olimar, Alistair, the flatlining of the season seems unprecedented compared with 18, 19, 94, 95, which we talked about before. Regardless of contracts, players expected mass clear-outs, and has the manager just completely lost the dressing room, having trashed their professionalism, which is kind of a continuation on Super Fran's point. Dave, he's right about the fall-off being pretty unprecedented, but it's pretty unique circumstances, isn't it?
It is, as we said before, it's totally unique. All these players out of contract, they've either been, would they have been told? How do we know? We don't know yet, but they know they're not going to be. We've seen what the new owners, have come out and said this week about, the dramatic changes in investment in the club. Deep down, these players know they're not going to be there next season. So of course it's got to have an effect. It's got to have an effect. So must do.
And they're already seeing some of their fellow professionals,
including some of the younger ones. Yeah, absolutely. Judge obviously was the highest profile so far, and some of the younger lads. I mean, that's been spoken about in social media over the last sort of week or so. Some of those younger players you'd like to remain or go. I mean, there's been talk of Jack Lancaster going, which I think again is a shame, because we know there was certainly a player there again a long time out. El Mazzuni's the one for me. I think that there's also talk about whether he goes or stays. I mean, personally, again, I think I'd certainly like him to stay. Again, I think there's a really good player there, but there's going to be some. I think the fans are going to be surprised. I think who actually leaves.
A few more comments and bits and pieces here. Flim Flam Film Fan. Remember that time, Dave? Was it Dave? I think this is. I'm going to correct you. Apologies for this. I think it's Andy. The time that Dave Jones, I think it was Graham Souness at Southampton, got fooled into signing a student who claimed to be George Weah's cousin.
Ali Dyer, wasn't it?
Ali Dyer.
Ali Dyer.
He was there for a good few weeks, I think. Just to explain our current squad, who do you think claimed they are related to? I'm Johnny Walk's cousin.
Aaron Drine and great nephew of Daryl Murphy, surely.
Yeah. Tim Pashley's back again. Are donuts or bagels on sale next season? Some Sam Adams, maybe.
Beers would be good.
Yeah.
Dan Rosenblatt. I'll just do this because this is a new kind of the bad penny of the questions on the. No offense to Dan. Will we ever score again, or will we score again this season? Will we score again this season, guys? Yes or no?
We've got
that pause was too long.
Sorry. Just quickly, I was going to say, we've got Swindon away on. So we always score 4, 6. We score 4. We score 6s at Swindon, and I think they've conceded something like 80 odd goals. If and a big if, well, no, it's probably a small if we don't score against Swindon, then I can safely say I don't think we'll score again this season.
No, we won't. Ian, with only 3 games to go, does it not really? Let me read this slowly. With only 3 games to go, 2 does. Yeah, not really matter. Let me retranslate the question for.
Do it as Paul Cook. Do it as Paul. I think you're
with only 3 games to go. Does it not matter now? Psychology of the players has to come into question. Sorry, for the future, do you think the new regime, when we talked about this earlier, will address the issue by directly by having sports psychologists as part of the staff, even if it isn't a permanent position? You know, Burley had someone. We've talked about this before, I think. Seb, surely there's a place.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
In 2021, when we're pretty open about mental health.
Yeah, if we're going to completely revolutionise the sports science department and stuff, there has to be a role for that. Like you said, 2021, mental health is so important. We've seen a couple of stories come out from academy players, about player welfare, etc. It's definitely a role that should be looked at, and just having somebody there. Don't make it compulsory. Some players might not want to talk to somebody, but just having somebody there as a voice to be able to talk to, I think would work wonders.
A few quick fire questions just to finish off with. Morning to Andrew. How do you think they will promote the season tickets? A list of players being released is suggested. I think what you need is you need Paul Cook to say, get in the raffle and you get to play at the ground. You deserve the right. Play at Portman Road. But I think we'll hear about season tickets and refunds next week, according to my sources.
That is going to be a sell, isn't it, that one?
You just got to stick the 3 lines on the front of it.
Thank God we've got the all you're going to do is have a statement video from the American guys, because can you imagine if we were Sayer and it was Evans trying to put something together?
Imagine that. Wow. Yeah.
FPL Tractor, what's the least productive 10 hours the panel have ever spent? In relation to
what was the question? What was the what? Sorry?
Least productive 10 hours the panel have ever spent.
Oof.
Probably on a plane.
I was once stuck, not quite 10, but something like 8 hours in a plane on the runway at Atlanta Airport many, many years ago. There you go. Not quite 10, though. Still not quite 10.
Seb, any exciting 10-hour?
I was made to watch the Harry Potter films over Christmas with my my missus, and it was really, really boring.
I'd have taken Atlanta over that.
Surely. Not a marathon.
It felt like it.
Dave Gore, is this the most bizarre spell in the club's history? I think, and unique.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, it's got to be, isn't
it?
The
myriad, I've used that twice. The plethora of things going on.
I think got to be. Although looking back in history, that famous Christmas period, it was only a very short spell. That famous Christmas period in about 1964, wasn't it? When one day literally we lost. Well, not literally. One day we lost 10-1 at Fulham, and then 2 days later beat them 4-2. That was quite bizarre. But not for such a period as this, to be fair.
Remy and Mark are asking pretty similar questions. Were we not expecting more from Paul Cook? Just kind of understand the lack of effort, says Remy and Mark. Do you think Cook is mismanaging this, or he thinks we have to rip this up in a very public way and start again? I guess we've kind of talked about this. We're unanimous that there's not a huge amount more than what Cook can do, or
And something else that came out of the interviews, again, they're going to say this, aren't they? But both Johnson and I think and Burke as well, came out in their interviews and said, "Yeah, we're right behind Paul Cook. Paul Cook was our choice. He's the man we trust." And what he said it to work with the new owners, the new chairman, CEO, to get it done and get it done right.
Yep. Final question from Mullet. How many years until we get those tattoos with Brett?
Well, some of us stupidly, Sky Bet did an offer where I think it was 10-1. Will Ipswich Town be a Premier League club by 2025? And I did stick a tenner on that. I think about 2 or 3 days after the buyout, which I think you actually referred to as being really, really stupid. And looking back, that does look quite accurate, doesn't it? I mean, at the minute we can't think of that, can we? We are a million miles away. Like Burke, I said. What did he say? If we don't get promoted end of next season, he'll be disappointed. So let's take the small steps and then get ourselves to the Championship and look to push on. Getting out of League One is probably the straightforward part. In theory, it's when we get to the Championship that things will really start to get a little bit more difficult. And let's see. But it would be nice if we could book that tattoo appointment in 2025, wouldn't it? And I can pay for it with my winnings from Sky Bet.
I think we can almost safely say, listening to these guys, that if at this moment in time next season we're not promoted, I think we'll probably have a new manager.
I think you're probably right. Yeah. Thanks everyone for the questions. It's always really useful. That I was going to ask Seb about his other bet that he placed with Sky Bet about this was being promoted, but
That was
It's
Craig's
just
fault.
harsh.
Craig kept highlighting, didn't he, and saying we're 12 to 1, we're 15 to 1. And I stupidly went on Sky. I went on a betting app and went, oh, yeah, brilliant. We are actually, yeah. And I stuck a tenner on. Then I don't think I've even got the choice to cash out anymore. I think they just took pity on me, and it's just sat there every week.
Stopped.
yeah.
Stop. Let's have a quick look at the league table. I was going to stick the results up, but we don't really care. Hull are promoted, 86 points. And again, behind them is Peterborough on 82 in second.
Yeah, just
the
about,
playoffs,
aren't they?
Sunderland, Streaky Lee coming back to his history, coming back to haunt him. They're third with 73 points. Lincoln
Look at that.
lost today, 72. Oxford, the only team in the playoff positions currently, who won yesterday. They're along with Blackpool on 68, also with Portsmouth on 68 and 7th. Charlton 66. MK Dons on a 3-match winning run. Not too late for them to make a last dash to the playoffs. And Swindon are relegated back to League Two. Bristol Rovers, after I don't know how long Bristol Rovers have been in League One actually. But if you're struggling to find a manager who's had less of a new manager bounce than Paul Cook, then there's another scouser called Cherry Barton who's not really had the desired effect at Bristol Rovers. But that's your roundup, and that's your lot. So thank you everyone as always for the contributions. As I said, Dave and Seb helping me navigate through that. We've got a few bits and pieces to plug. Already talked about favourite chicken. In fact, while I'm talking through that, there's how you can follow us on Twitter, on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. We're on Insta, on Facebook. Always pushing interesting and good things down there. But also this week, we've done a little teaser trailer for it. This on this day or on this week in 2001, Ipswich had just beaten Coventry City 2-0 from with goals from Martin Roycer and a deflected long ranger from Jermaine Wright, which put Ipswich Town into joint third position in the Premier League, guys. Joint third with Leeds, equal on points and goals scored. On goal difference, but goals scored we were fourth. And that was a 3-match winning run. We'd had one defeat in our previous 9 games, 4 points off second. We've already talked about that season in passing. What a massive kind of opposite of the situation we're in celebration of the 20th anniversary of that unbelievable season. And we won't talk about the one that followed it. Mikey sat down with skipper from that era, Matty Holland, to get his views on that. That will come out probably Tuesday or Wednesday next week to fill the void of more League One action. But guys, very quickly on that, your kind of favourite memories of that campaign. Dave, we'll start with you.
Oh, so crikey, so many. Perhaps a loss, even going up to Man U. I remember going up to Man U just before Christmas, losing. Oh, other than them, we already spoke about earlier on the pod, the first game against Man U. Going up to Man U and I know we lost. I think Sol Beckham played a couple of 50-yard balls to Solskjaer, I remember. But yeah, just brilliant, just being in the game and giving them a game. And that was a great memory. I remember being right behind the goal. You guys are probably there. The Royce free kick at West Ham. Absolutely scenes there. Oh, there's just so many. The Man City game near the end of the season, fantastic. The Matty Holland was it? Armstrong diving header, wasn't it? Just fantastic. What a season! What a season. Probably earlier on in the season, also went to the away game at Leeds. That was superb as well. Superb.
Nice one, Seb.
Yeah.
Just so many memories, weren't there? The ones that stand out for me was the Everton 3-0, McGreal and Stewart just dancing the ball in on the goal line with players lying all around him on the floor. The Anfield goal in front of the Kop is always the one that's going to get, going to get mentioned the most.
Who scored that one?
Marcus Stewart, yeah. And I did also love the Stewart hat-trick at the Dell. That was a brilliant game of football. Roycer hits the crossbar from the halfway line. You've got Haridason marauding up the wing. It was just the perfect season. Absolutely fantastic. And so many great memories, and I'm really looking forward to the chat that Mikey had with Matt Holland.
And just a one in there from me. Was it Boxing Day or between Christmas and New Year's? We absolutely battered Spurs. We beat them 3-0.
Oh, yeah.
It should have been
Icy
6
pitch.
or 7 that day.
Icy pitch.
That game. It was one of my favourites, but an amazing season. And as you said, guys, really great to hear from. I'm turning into Paul Cook now. that impression is really
Losing it.
vocal cords. But really great to hear from within the camp as well and get the perspective of the players who probably were pinching themselves every week. So look out for that one. That'll go down on the usual channels. And that's your lot. As I said, no midweek live shows or anything like that. We'll be back next week to talk through hopefully at least a goal scored for Ipswich. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Away at Swindon. And I would say, who wants the last word? Should it be me as Paul Cook?
It's got to be Paul Cook, surely.
Oh,
yeah.
it's got to be Paul Cook.
What should
I say? I mean, maybe I need to quote. Maybe I need to quote Burke Bakay's Paul Cook, and I'll flip the quote around. Let's see if this works. Let me cue up the outro as well, so there's not an awkward pause after I've done it. 1 second. Right, here we go. Strap yourselves in. This is going to be epic. Get the resources. Get it done. Thanks for watching or listening to the Blue Monday podcast. And thanks to those of you who have kindly supported the channel via Acast or YouTube donations. You can follow us at the usual places on social media, and don't forget to subscribe so that you get our new shows first.